I flipped that around, and I'm able to focus on the good things, and I really just shake off, if there was a bad review or a filling broke or a crown didn't fit or a patient got upset with me. I really shake those off, and it's not anything that I did necessarily wrong, and I don't beat myself up over those things.
Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Taryn McCarthy. And guys, today is going to be an amazing day because we have with us a really special guest, Dr. Eric Block. And if you do not know who Dr. Eric Block is, where have you been? Dr. Eric Block is a full-time practicing dentist in Massachusetts, husband and father of two kids. He's also the co-founder of the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches, this really amazing organization that I've been telling you about, supporting dental professionals through the help of life coaches. Eric is so much more than that, though. He's the founder of digital marketplace Deals for Dentists, host of Deals for Dentists podcast, host of Live with Blocky, an I Love Dentistry Facebook group. He has authored several books: The Stress-Free Dentist, Overcome Burnout and Start Loving Dentistry Again, Stress-Free Dental Implants, and a children's book called Dino Nuggets. What is the name of that book, your children's book? My Leftover Dino Nuggets?
That's it. You
I
got it.
love it. I love it. We got to talk about that. But I heard that you're also releasing another book that's for entrepreneurs in general, the Stress-Free Entrepreneur. Am I right?
That's right. That actually just launched last week.
Amazing, amazing. Well, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I love everything that you do, Eric. And I love that you've poured back into the profession in terms of recognizing the needs of our dental colleagues. Can you tell us just a little bit about how you shifted your perspective in terms of working strictly on mouths and now to support our colleagues and other dentists? How did that come to place in your life and in your career?
Yeah, and thanks so much for having me, and thanks for being a part of the IADLC, the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches. You and the other coaches are just as much a part of it getting launched as me and Dr. Brenner. So thank you for being a part of that. I would say that I had a couple of eureka moments during my dental career that really kind of woke me up and said, you know what, you have a story to share, and you should get out there and see if you can help other dental professionals that may be going through what you did. So I was a psychology major at Tulane, and I knew that I always had wanted to go through psychotherapy at some point, and I just never pulled the trigger. And then I went through a tremendous amount of burnout and regret and anger, and really just regretted my place in the profession and the fact that I chose dentistry. And this was about halfway through my career. And I said, you know what, you got to do something. These feelings are not going to go away. I really didn't look forward to going into work in the morning, and I couldn't wait until 5 o'clock to get home, or I couldn't wait until the weekend to decompress for the next week. And then I would have those Sunday night blues. And I said, you know what, I can't wait until I retire. And that was no way to live. So I said, I got to do something. I picked up the phone and I called a local therapist, and I started going through psychotherapy and just really figuring out, why I was so anxious and unhappy. And I was able to turn the corner and really just get comfortable with myself and not put too much pressure on myself. And I thought, you know what, if I can do this, then, maybe a lot of others can do it. And that's when I started to write the Stress-Free Dentist book and just started, getting out there and sharing my story. And I really feel like, I'm at the point where I enjoy going into work every day. So if I can do it, then others can do it as well.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing it with us. What did you notice in the difference of practicing dentistry before and after you sought support?
Oh yeah, before I was so anxious, and I had major imposter syndrome. I had so much self-doubt. I really lacked major confidence.
Mm,
And I was so scared of getting sued and getting a bad review, and I wanted everyone to like me. And, a lot of times that really backfired, and I just ended up putting so much pressure on myself. I was saying yes to everyone else. And a lot of times that's like saying no to yourself. I would take on every case, every patient, because I didn't want to, I didn't want to say no to them and then have an uncomfortable conversation. And really the anxiety got to the point where I actually thought about leaving dentistry and going to law school so I could be the one doing the suing. And I wanted to flip the script. That's how nervous I was of getting sued. And I said, you know what, this is just no way to live. So during therapy, I really just figured out, and along with going deep into my childhood and, going in every 2 weeks and a combination of some prescribed medications, it all just started to go away. It took a while. It took maybe 6 months to a year, but it was all up here. It was all
Yeah.
just me putting too much pressure on myself. And that just started to go away. And I started to really open up actually more with my patients. And I stopped being, I'm the dentist and there's a barrier between us. And I'm going to use all this dental lingo and prove how smart I am. And I just started opening up more, kind of letting in my, not so much totally my private life, but just letting patients in and being open and honest with them. And if there's a case or a patient that I don't feel comfortable working on, then I'll just say, hey, I'm going to refer you to a colleague. Or if a patient doesn't move forward with the treatment or doesn't rebook with me, I don't get all upset because every other dentist in the history of dentistry has had a bad review or a treatment that didn't come out as according to plan. So, it was all up here and just not putting too much pressure on myself.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I think so many people listening to this episode can identify with all of those feelings of not feeling good enough or being afraid of being not fitting in or being attacked or being sued, or especially online social media reviews right now is a big terror for a lot of people, how people will receive us. Did you notice during your journey of self discovery and personal development, did you notice an impact as well on your personal life?
Yeah, I still to this day sometimes, I'm just junk when I get home from a
Mm.
busy day, and we have 5 hygienists and 9 ops, and sometimes I'm running around and I am just wiped,
Yeah.
and that's gonna happen. My wife gets it, she gets me, and I'm like, you know what, today I'm junk, and I got to stare at the wall for a half an hour before I can, give my self back to the family, because I'm more introverted and I need to just kind of be quiet and almost like alone for like a half an hour just to decompress. And I really learned that about myself, and that, I thought there was something wrong with me. The social nature of the profession, going from room to room to room, and really just being all out there and almost like acting for patients,
Yeah.
because no one wants a sad, tired dentist working on them. So I would be in there, juggling and dancing and smiling, and then I would get home and just be totally wiped. And it still happens, and it's just the nature of the profession, but it really happens a lot less now because when I get home, I can, decompress for a bit, and then I'm a lot happier when I get home as well.
Yeah, you said some beautiful things I'd love to highlight in there. And number one is that journey of self discovery, kind of, who am I and how do I handle stress and what do I need at the end of the day? Trying to understand ourselves. And it's so interesting. I remember there's a quote that goes something like the entrepreneurial journey is a personal development journey. In this journey we get to know ourselves more if we allow ourselves to do so. And I love that you identified what you need at the end of the day and then had the courage to be able to share that with your spouse, and be able to say, look, this is what I need from you and this is what I need from me.
Yeah. And, I think it really, we all have to take a good look in the mirror and figure out, what really makes us tick.
Mm.
And we're all different. We all come from different backgrounds, have different personalities, have different practices. And, I've been practicing 20 years, and it took me a while to really figure out, what made me tick, and, how I deal with patients and how I kind of deal with the dentistry side and then the home side. And I still struggle with it. It's still a struggle. And I think that's with any high stress profession,
Yeah.
it's or business or being an entrepreneur in general. There's going to be times where you're just stressed out of your mind. And, that's why I wrote these books, is that the stress-free mindset is by no means free of stress. It's the fact that the stress will not break me, and that I understand there's going to be tremendous times of stress. There's going to be sleepless nights, but I'm going to come back the next day even stronger. I'm going to learn from these mistakes, and I won't let the stress break me. That's really the reason behind the books.
Yeah, thank you for reminding us about those books, and I love that perspective too, because we don't have to give up on this beautiful dream that we have, or even the joy we get out of creating and growing businesses and growing our business. And sometimes there's stress involved with that, but it's that magic of learning how to manage that for yourself and how to integrate that into a whole life. Yeah. And I think you touched on another really important thing is we don't give ourselves enough credit for what we do in this world. As dental professionals, we're doing a ton every day in terms of holding space for every patient in the day, not just emotionally, but energetically and intellectually, and then still managing the practice, managing the team. There's so many components. The fact that you're exhausted at the end of the day, we should give ourselves some compassion for that. It make absolutely makes sense. We think we should just power through and be ready to go to CrossFit at the end of the day, but I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Actually, you asked me a question earlier about, how kind of self-reflecting and how it helped me, other than the practice and dentistry. And I used to, like you mentioned, I used to focus on the one bad thing that would happen during the day, and I just couldn't get that out of my head. And I'd replay it over and over in my head, and I would ignore the 25 good things that happened.
Yeah.
And over my journeys, and maybe this is just getting wiser, and um, I flipped that around, and I'm able to focus on the good things, and I really just shake off, if there was a bad review, or a filling broke, or a crown didn't fit, or a patient got upset with me. I really shake those off, and it's not anything that I did necessarily wrong, and I don't beat myself up over those things.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. And also being able to don't you think celebrating the great things? You made such a good point. We put so much attention on that one word or sentence that someone spoke to us, or one incident that really was uncomfortable, and we wake up thinking about it and we replay it and grow that moment to take up so much space in our time and in our thought process. And really being able to do the opposite is such a magical thing, to find that beautiful moment, because we all have them with our patients
Absolutely. They happen every day, and it's
every day.
yeah, and it may even be that, that one patient says, "Wow, that was fast," or "Wow, that was not so bad." Even those little things, you should really grab those, and focus on those, and not, the one or two bad things that happen, because that'll build up, and that's a one way ticket to burnout city if you let those negative things take over your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, I'm interrupting your podcast episode to let you know about an incredible new program that I'm launching in January of 2023. It is specifically for practitioners in medicine and dentistry to help you rediscover happiness and inner fulfillment within your profession and your life. I remember what it was like for me when years ago I was so depressed and anxious and feeling like I had created and built a treadmill I just couldn't get off of, pushing through every day and wishing my life away. This program is the how of how to find happiness in your practice and in your life. Because we know that when we feel good, that's when we can do good. Check out thebizofhappiness.com/radical happiness, or click the link in the show notes. I cannot wait to see you there. What do you think it is? Because in creating this vision for International Academy of Dental Life Coaches, and that really was something born from your recognizing the need in the profession, and thank you so much for doing that, bringing life coaches to dentists. And so many of us are dentists, practicing dentists. So absolutely knowing what people are going through and then providing support and a safe space to share. And so thank you. I want to first honor you for creating this incredible academy. Thank you. And then my question is, what do you think it is about us dentists? What is your analysis of why this is such a stressful job and why we see so much burnout and overwhelm in our profession?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a whole book on that. There's so many reasons, and we're staring at this 1 millimeter space, and we're in these awkward positions, and we're working on awake patients. We're drilling on their teeth. We have sharp things. We have to get them numb, and we have to give them this great patient experience. And that's just 1/2 hour during the day. One filling right there, and then we have to bounce around to all the other rooms and do these hygiene checks and make everyone feel special in those hygiene rooms and almost make them feel like they're the only one in the office that day. Now I've just jumped around to 5 different rooms in a half an hour, 45 minutes. That's just one 45-minute, section of my day. And I'm doing this for 8 hours. Then we have a staff, we have a team, we're in charge of HR, we're in charge of marketing. All of a sudden we're CEOs of these businesses that we were never trained in. And there's such a duality in dentistry, where there's the clinical side where you really, can't or shouldn't, really take too many risks and make mistakes because we're working on patients. And then there's the business side where it's such a safe business where the failure rate is so low, yet we still don't want to take risks. We're kind of stuck in our little bubble of practicing kind of old ways of dentistry and business. And it's just this duality of the clinical side and the business side, and it's something that we're really not trained for in school. And I hear a lot of dentists say, we should really have all this training in dental school, and I agree, but I just wanted to get out and graduate and and get my requirements done and finish up my clinical requirements and then get out of there. Um, I wish we had more business education and accounting or marketing or HR resources, but at the time, I don't think I really would have focused too much on those things, because I just wanted to get out and pass my boards and go on to the next chapter of my life. But there's just so much that goes on. It's such a complex uh, profession. And I actually remember one time when I was trying to explain this to my therapist, who was not a dentist, they were a psychotherapist. And I was trying to explain the dynamic between the hygienist and the assistant and the office manager. And I went on this like 20-minute rant. And at the end, she said, and she was excellent, but she didn't know dentistry. And she said, "So what does the assistant do again? And what does the hygienist do again?" And I was like, "Oh, I just went through this, exhausting story." And it's hard to explain to someone that's not in the industry,
Yeah.
what we go through on a day-to-day basis. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to start the IADLC, is that we're here as life coaches that understand and get dental professionals. And we're here and we get what you're going through day in, day out. And there's a place for you to go if you're feeling the burn and you're stressed. And we're here to help. And that was the whole reason behind it.
Yes, and another aspect that I love that you incorporated in IADLC is something you referred to earlier, is that we're all unique, that each one of us is a unique person. And, I believe, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, Eric, is that so much of our stress and overwhelm comes from comparison and thinking that we have to be a certain way, fit into a certain mold, or show up as a certain way to our patients or within the industry. And what I love about AIDLC is you have right now, is there 10 or 12 of us, all different coaches who have very different backgrounds, very different approaches, so that as somebody who's looking for support from a life coach, you can find somebody who has the knowledge of dentistry, but also you can be able to choose from a unique perspective, somebody who you really align with.
Yeah, we have life coaches that are experienced with, we have some that are dentists, some that are just, professional life coaches, others are hygienists, some are had experience as assistants or during as an admin of a dental office. We have men, we have women. We tried to really cover, everyone and everything, so that if you're out there and you check out our website, and if there's someone that you think you can connect with, click on their button and we'll match you up with them.
Yeah, so let's let people know how to find IADLC.
Yep, it's iadlc.com, and that stands for the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches.
Yeah, and we'll definitely put a link to that in the show notes. So if you're driving, don't check it now, but when you get home, you can see that link directly in the show notes. And I want to just also ask you, Eric, in terms of working with uh, clients, what is the commitment that different? So if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking, I just don't have time. I don't have time to work with a coach. I'm so overwhelmed because I found that one of the biggest challenges for dentists is finding time. So what do you have to say to somebody who's listening thinking, yeah, I just don't even have time to work with a coach?
I would say, curb that mentality and do it, because you only live once. You have one life, you have one mind, you have one body. And if you keep putting it off, and I did that as well, I put it off and I kept saying, someday I'll do this. And I wish I had gone through, coaching and therapy years ago, earlier on in my career. And I'd say better late than never, no matter what your age is, if you're just fresh out of school or you've been practicing for 30 years. If you're urban, suburban, rural, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that this is a long career. And if you're having some issues, or you're burned out, you're super stressed, full of self-doubt or anxiety, or just not happy, a lot of times these problems, they do not go away on their own. In fact, they probably will get worse. So the more you wait, the more these problems may compound each other, and then you're just digging yourself out of a bigger hole.
Yeah.
So, like, we tell patients, you know, prevention and maintenance is the best. And if you wait, then that cavity gets bigger and it turns into a root canal and a crown, or extraction and implant. Do it the sooner the better, and you won't regret it.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point because some of us wait until we burn down completely and then find ourselves either divorced or in a fire sale of a practice, really just trying to run away from the pain as quickly as possible. So I think it's interesting because we sometimes wonder, do you have to hit rock bottom before you ask for help?
Absolutely not. And I think I had gotten very close to hitting rock bottom, because I wanted out of the profession. And I still had I had a great family. I was doing well, very supportive family and wife and kids. And the I was still, very successful in my practice, but I really wanted out of the profession. And I wish I had done it a lot sooner. And early on in my career, there were so many ups and downs and stressful times, but I didn't know where to turn. I didn't
Yeah.
know who to reach out to. And now we wanted to create more awareness that doesn't matter what stage of your career, whether you're a little bit burned out, or you're just feeling a little burn, or a little uncertainty, a little self doubt, or you really feel like you have hit rock bottom, or guess what? If you're doing great, but you just want to get to that next level, you know,
Yes.
there's a place to turn to. And that's why we're here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes you get to a certain level of success and you just can't get past that plateau. Yeah. Man, that's a great time for life coaches as well. And I think also in the name it really affects your whole life. Sometimes
Mhm.
we tell ourselves, well, it's just all dentistry, but it really is so much more than that.
It is. Yeah, because, like I said, we only live once. A lot of times we're in our practices and we see our team and our staff more than we do our own families. It happens a lot with running a business, or being a dentist, or really any profession for that matter. We give so much to our practice. It is a major part of our life. So yes, I agree. A life coach will help you with your entire life.
You know, I want to ask you one more question, but first I want to know, you have a couple of great things coming up. One of them is your Roses and Thorns at dentalgrowthcon.com. I'd love to know a little bit more about Roses and Thorns because that just screams to me being able to recognize those things. So tell us a little bit about that conference you have coming up.
Yeah, so Roses and Thorns will be May 18th to May 20th, which is be here before you know it.
I know, around the corner.
And it's just outside of Chicago, and it's at the Eaglewood Resort and Spa, which is, I believe, in Istapa, Illinois. I may have just butchered that name, but it's like 20 minutes outside of Chicago, and we chose that spot because it's, Chicago's a pretty central area to get to, and we made it all inclusive. So, dental professionals that are out there that feel like, again, they feel like they are having some weaknesses, some thorns, some issues. They want to get to that next level. We are creating an event where we're just focusing on learning from other people's strengths and weaknesses. It's all about the people in the room, and it's all inclusive. So, all your hotel and food and drinks and excursions and surprises, they're all included. And we are going to have lots of fun, but we're going to get, pretty serious and like what's bothering you in your life and practice. And guess what? Whatever you're really struggling with, the person sitting next to you at your table, we're going to match you up with someone that may be excelling in that. So we're doing an intake form before, and we're going to match people up, where they're sitting, based off of each other's strengths and weaknesses. And we'll match, we'll mix people up. And the vendors as well, the sponsors are just as much a part of the event as well. But it's really just about the people in the room, sharing your stories, having some fun. And we're also very serious about calling everyone 30 days later to make sure they're following through with their intentions, to make sure that it wasn't just, a weekend thing and, just kind of an escape for a weekend. We really want to make some major changes so people can have more positivity in their life and career.
That's amazing. That's what I love about you, Eric. Everything you do is so completely beautifully thought out and thoughtful and absolutely followed through on. So that's so cool. I just love that perspective. And then, as you mentioned at the beginning of the hour, you have your third book, The Stress-Free Entrepreneur, not just for dentists.
Yeah. So the stress-free entrepreneur, again, it sounds oxymoronic, the title, and it can be true. When you're thinking about opening up a business or starting it up, becoming an entrepreneur and taking that leap to become build a startup, to understand that, a lot of startups fail. There's going to be major failures. There's going to be major mistakes. And in the world of entrepreneurship, that is considered like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
You did it. You entered the arena. You failed. You made mistakes. Great. Move on, learn from it, and, start up the next one.
Yeah.
It's very different than dentistry, because dentistry is such a safe profession where 99% of practices succeed. In the entrepreneurial world, it's almost the opposite. But I was bitten by the entrepreneurial bug a few years ago, and I feel like I woke up from a coma. And I now look at things differently. I try to solve problems in my head, and I strategically plan for starting up a business or organization. And I deeply understand that it may fall flat on its face and never see the light of day, or just, totally, I'll have to shelve it and move on to the next thing. And that's totally okay. That's the world of entrepreneurship. So that's really it's a mindset book to say, if you have an idea or you really have a passion, do it, pursue it, don't procrastinate.
And I think it has great reflection even into dentistry, even as a dental business owner, or even if you are an independent contractor within dentistry. It gives you that perspective that none of this really matters. We get to just enjoy this. Really, I mean, nothing actually matters. And when we give ourselves that perspective, we get to just play and have fun and bring our creativity to the table and go for it. Yeah.
And age doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm 47, and I started my entrepreneurship in maybe when I was 44. But I wrote about this story in my book that I had spoken to a couple of, fresh new grads. They were 21 or 22, and they were full of the entrepreneurial spirit. They were starting up a website and a business, and I was just so enamored by them,
Yeah.
and so feeling of, I wish I had done this earlier, but better late than never.
Yeah, and there is so much power in youth too, isn't there? That kind of not knowing what you don't know is almost a gift because you don't know what you're getting yourself into. So then you have more courage and excitement. You don't know the rules. There's a gift to that as well. So even experience doesn't matter.
Yeah, and when you're younger, your runway of life is longer, and your mistakes that you make, you have a lot more life to live, and you can overcome those mistakes. And you have obviously a lot more energy and maybe less, kids, and more time and energy, so that helps as well.
Absolutely. It's so awesome to have you on the show today. I'm so grateful that you came by, and I'm excited for people to just know more about IADLC. If anybody listening is thinking that they might be interested in checking out a life coach, definitely head over to iadlc.com. And before we leave today, I have to ask you, Eric, the question I ask of all of my guests. What is your definition of happiness?
I would say that I keep going back to the word of no regrets, or no regret. I had a tremendous amount of regret, earlier on in my career, and that was for sure no way to be happy.
Mhm.
Constantly think about the woulda, coulda, shouldas, or I should have done this, I should have done that. As I got more comfortable with myself, it created more confidence. It created less self doubt, and more, awareness that I'm on the right path and this is what I'm doing. And if it doesn't work out, no big whoop. It didn't happen. Move on from it. But to do it, take action, and don't have any regrets. That's to me. That's happiness.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, my friend, and thank you for all that you do. Thank you for the courage that you have to take action.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you to all of you for joining us here today. Check out iadlc.com for sure, and check out Roses and Thorns conference in Chicago this May. And until next time, remember, when you feel good, that's when you can do good. Bye bye.